All right. Welcome to the David is Goliath TV channel once again. Making another philosophical video in my rocking chair. Looks like the whole world is moving around me. That's okay. Uh, so I'm making a video today to discuss the existence of God, the scientific existence of God. I don't want you to just believe blindly. I want you to know God exists. As a scientist, you try to look for evidence, physical things, and I can proffer up some physical evidences, starting with a coin. Uh, I talk about a coin I've created in a book I'm working on called Ego and the Great Hive. It's a piece of Christian sympathetic literature. It's a novel, kind of sci-fi work, really. Uh, but if I could be so bold to chalk myself up in the same realm as like J.R. Tolkien or C.S. Lewis, I would. They are Christian sympathetic authors, if you didn't know that. It's pretty evident with Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Aslan, Lordly Lion, dying on a stone table so the great deep magic can be overturned, so sacrificing himself so others can live. It's pretty obvious Christ-like archetype. With Lord of the Rings, it's a little harder to see until you peel back the layers that Tolkien laid down. And interesting enough, you look at, Gandalf the Grey when he sacrificed himself to the Balrog and all of his friends. You saw the Balrog fall down and grab him by the leg, and he sacrificed himself to fall, and let his friends escape. And then he came back, Gandalf the White. He was, he it's kind of cool. When he came back, he was imbuing divine archetypes. Like he didn't take Gimli's side when the White Wizard found them in the woods, when Gandalf the White found them in the woods. He first, he waited to see what their intentions were before he aligned himself with either side, because he wasn't at that time when he came back, Gandalf the White, for the forces of good, or the forces of the Fellowship, nor the forces of Mordor. Uh, anyway, getting way off topic here. Uh, Trying to talk about the existence of God. So, getting to it, I proffer you a piece of physical, weighable evidence, a coin I've created. Let's say on one side of the coin, there is the signature of pi, and there's a lot of number sequences that are like pi. I would liken this to the signature of God, a transcendental being, and, it'd be like, okay, that's kind of a lot, it's a number. Tell me, explain, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, 3.14, blah, 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 goes on to the tens of trillions place, never repeats itself. Not once have we ever seen pi ever repeat itself. And there's a lot of number sequences like pi, but the reason that I say that pi is the beginning proof to understand a transcendental, unified, physical God, a transcendental being, pi, it's tied to everything in existence. You take the smallest bits of matter that can be physically observed in our universe, which are quarks. You look at protons, you look at neutrons, you tear them all apart, you get the exact same components. You get three quarks and three gluons, these little tendrils of energy that keep them all tethered together. But quarks, the smallest bit of matter that we can observe, it's round at its smallest bit. They call it a spherical quantum orbit. It's subatomic foam, really. But it has this roundness to it. Uh, Interesting observation here is, you take anything round, be it the size of a cork, the smallest bit of reality we can weigh and measure, or something round the size of a beach ball, doesn't matter. God left his signature on it all the same. You take anything round and divide the circumference by the diameter, and you always get pi. This infinitely long string of numbers is attached to everything. So you say, okay, great. Why is it the signature of God? And I'll tell you why. It's because matter, like God said, this place is like vapor in the wind, quickly passing away. Everything in existence is like this, matter moving through time. In this way, this world we live in really is like vapor in the wind. Interesting observation. Uh, Everything in the universe that has muchness to it has a God particle also attached to it. That's what's on the other side of the coin. First side, it's pi. Second side, it's this God particle. It says that everything has muchness, and I can explain that in a second. But let me just get back to what I was saying about why pi is the signature of God. You look at a atom long after the last electron of that atom leaves the nucleus of the atom, and everything that it is fizzles out into everything that it isn't. Lower subatomic electrical base pair elements, gas clouds just floating through the vacuum. Everything that is will eventually come apart. Yeah, fact, entropy, physics, everything that is slowly losing electrons over the course of billions of years until everything fizzles out into, like I say, just clouds of gas floating through the cosmos. So interesting observation is here we have the atom long after that last electron leaves the structure of the atom, that infinitely long string of numbers that's attached to everything, the God particle, the muchness factor, the Higgs boson particle that is a scientific fact in 2024. This particle has that pi attached to it, that infinitely long string of numbers. So what happens after the last electron leaves the structure of the atom and everything that is fizzles out and ceases to be? That insanely long paradox, that number that goes on forever, that's going to continue to go on forever long after matter itself ceases to be. So here we have a variable that is transcendental to matter itself. It doesn't care if matter ceases to be. This God particle, this will continue to exist long after matter ceases to be. So here, by definition, we have an energy force that is everything in the universe, and permeates the known universe and transcends the universe and will continue to go on long after the universe ceases to go on. You see, this by definition, I'll say people like, oh, that sounds great. That doesn't sound like God. That sounds like the Force from Star Wars. It doesn't sound like God. I'm like, oh, that's great. That coin I told you about, that's one. That's one piece. I have four pieces of physical weighable mechanisms, pieces of evidence that point to God's physical existence. So, recap real quick, and then we'll move on to the other three if you guys want to listen to me rant that long. So again, we got this coin that has this God particle attached to it, and let's explain that real quick. So interesting. I had this guy Michio Kaku, this theoretical physicist. He used to work for the National Reconnaissance Office. Really smart Asian fellow. I see him talk all the time. He gave this little talk, and hopefully I don't misquote him too terribly much. But he said that the existence of the God particle is huge, profound to physicists. And he says if you have a pen in front of you, there's no difference between that pen on the table in front of you that's physically weighable and measurable, made up of, basically a subatomic blueprint of ones and zeros of atoms. They're physically weighable and measurable. They have object permanence. There's no difference between that pen on the table versus the visualization of that pen that exists within the fat matter of your brain as a neuron impulse charge. A hologram visualization, if you will, a representation that exists only as a neuron impulse visualization charge in your mind, in the fat matter of your brain. But to physicists now, we know the God particle exists. There's literally no difference. There's no difference between the pen on the table that's physically weighable versus the one that you're visualizing in your mind. The only difference is this one that you're visualizing in your mind doesn't have object permanence, doesn't have that God particle attached to all of the, the model, the electric blueprint of it. But I mean, that raises a really amazing understanding paradox of the universe, is that, this isn't everything. Our eyes aren't capable of perceiving everything. We exist in the third dimension here. I hated that when I heard that. That's for a whole different video. When I say we live in the third dimension, it's because it's time, space, and physical directional movement. That's it. Those are the only things you can quantify our known universe with. But there's more to reality than, this world will have us, see in this lifetime. Anyway, the coin, we've got the God particle that gives muchness to the universe itself, gives everything object permanence, allows everything to interact or not interact, depending on your view of physics. And then on the other side, we've got the pi signature, the infinitely long string of numbers that transcends the universe and transcends matter's existence itself. If that is not the definition enough of God, let's move on to the next thing. Let's look at quantum entanglement. Now we know from our friends down at CERN, the Big Hadron Particle Collider, Hadron Collider, yeah, it's something like that. The LAC they call it, this big collider. They collide particles together to see what they're comprised of, to see what they're made out of. They've found all kinds of interesting interactions between particle physics and such. And one of the interesting things they've recently discussed is the understanding of quantum entanglement. And quantum entanglement exists. It's the reason that if you're a low vibration, you'll find yourself amongst other low vibrations when you pass from this dimension, the third, onto the fourth. It's why people that have near-death experiences on the operating table can come to for a minute, and they'll be surrounded by loved ones and stuff. It's like, how do they find each other? And it could be more scientific than you know. It could be quantum entanglement, that like vibrations vibrate with like vibrations. We found through the magic of this atom smasher that if you have any two like isotopes that are entangled, they call this process this state quantum entanglement. You can separate them by limitless stuff, limitless time, limitless space you can put in between these things, and you stimulate one, you always get a like response from the other. Uh, so it's not too far-fetched of a notion to me that people have wavelengths, vibrations also. Unified physics, I believe, is truth. I think string theory is being clinged to with a great deal of effort in the scientific community at this point, but transcendence comes at a cost. They don't want to, discuss all of these profound implications of science and time and space, lest it implicate your soul. And oh, heavens, you learn too much about the world in which you live. You learn about God. Anywho, quantum entanglement, that's the reason. That's the reason. There's nobody can make it to the peak of creation, to the pinnacle of creation. Nobody is high vibration enough. We're weighed by the flesh. Nobody is high vibration enough to make it to the pinnacle of creation but Christ. That's my opinion. That's what I've seen to be true in my time. But if you have the light in the way, you got the light in the way. Like a good shepherd, you find your way to the high vibration, to the good places. And I believe, the kingdom of heaven is in the fourth dimension. I believe that profoundly. I think, it's like digital superpositioning. Is it a one? Is it a zero? It's both. Here in this place in the third, you've never met a person at a time that wasn't also at a place. That's not going to be true after you die, I think. Time and space is not a thing if you're not bound into an entroscopic body that experiences time in a linear fashion. It's interesting. So we've talked about the coin, the pi. We've talked about the Higgs boson particle. We've talked about quantum entanglement. Let's talk about dark matter. That's another piece. Is dark matter. People say, "Oh, we don't know what dark matter is. We don't know where it's at, what it's made up of." Sherlock Holmes said, "With the given variables of evidence, eliminate everything from the realm of possibilities, and whatever's left, no matter how absurd, must be the truth." And I'll tell you where dark matter is. Look around. It's not here. We can't weigh and measure it here. We can't observe it here, but we know it exists. Dark matter is the rest of creation. 90% of all things, all physicists agree upon dark matter's existence comprising 90% of creation. Physicists never agree upon anything, but they agree upon that. So I conclude logically, through my limited ability to perceive the universe, that it exists ahead of us in the rest of creation. The layers of reality ahead of us are comprised of dark matter. You know, go figure. Uh, let's see. We talked about the coin, talked about Higgs boson particle, pi signature, dark matter, quantum entanglement. Uh, Check out my next video on Secrets of Heaven, on wisdom I gained through the death of an 18-year-old boy, on how I know that God dwells in higher places than that of even heaven itself. The throne of heaven is at the center of all creation. At the center of unified physics, there is a pinnacle, a pinnacle. Blah, blah. There's a pinnacle at the center of unified physics. It's called the throne of creation. God sits upon the throne of creation, and he can't leave it, but it extends throughout all the layers of reality, going up and down. And check out my next video. I don't want to rant and rave too long, keep them short and summarized, short and sweet. So this one was on the existence of God, the scientific, physical proof of God's existence. I believe if you weigh and measure all of these proofs, it'll lead you to the light and the way here for us humans here in this time. And right now, the light and the way to the highest vibration is God made flesh, Christ Jesus, But I mean, humans are so young, I believe there's been life on this planet for eons terror before us. Hell, I think there's probably been dinosaur civilizations on this planet. It's not for me to know the light and the way God makes for them, but God makes a way for all life and all of creation, no matter what planet they're on, no matter what galaxy they're from. God is the way maker for all of them. And the God that sits on the throne of creation is a non-human God. He is beyond species. He is beyond gender. He is God, that sits above all of creation. And the light and the way he made for us is Christ, human, male, Jesus. And the light and the way he makes for an alien squid people and on an alien squid planet would be an alien squid version of Jesus that probably wouldn't be called Jesus Christ, because that's a Christian, Judaic, human earth name. It'd be whatever they call themselves, but whatever. It's not for me to know. God keeps secrets and mysteries and wisdom hidden from us all. But know that our God is too creative to ever have anything begin and end here on this planet. And God's love is also too big for it to ever begin and end here on this planet. But anyway, it's your mission to get to know your God as best you can. But God is good. He is real. And heaven's probably filled with a heck of a lot more than just humans. Just saying. My Dungeons and Dragons thing back here. Yeah. Super nerd times 10. Anyway, subscribe to the channel if you like my weird philosophical videos. And subscribe. David is Goliath TV. Peace. It's a good video.